I started to develop the opinion that child-specific games tend to be a waste of time and money. Welcome to the Hobby Hangout. Thanks for joining us for another episode.
Today, we want to show off that we got in the mail our book, Find the Fun from Gabe
Barrett?
Barrett.
Yeah.
Um, Actually, I want to share some of the things that got us hooked from the beginning. We were watching their
Their
YouTube,
podcast.
and their
The Board
podcast,
Game Design Lab.
the Board Game Design Lab. Yes, we only had to listen to chapter 1 to say we actually want to order this because I really like my physical books.
So the
Sure.
one part around in chapter 1 around what is a board game, and I think is important to keep in mind how Gabe highlights that a board game is a fun engine, and I really liked that analogy of it or that description of it, because it's not, as he says, it's not just about dice and cards and pieces, right? It's the purpose of a game is to have fun and engage the group of players, and how he goes into um, how players put time in and you get fun out. That's sort of the transaction that's occurring when you're playing a game. And from a game designer perspective, focusing on that time to fun ratio, I think is very, very important. And I'm sure everyone's played a game where thinking about it, you're probably putting a lot more time into it. You're not getting much fun out of it. And I think that's something that I can take away and when we play games, think about, right? Like if I'm not getting the fun out of the time investment, why keep
Where we're
playing?
playing
Yeah,
it,
why keep
yeah.
playing? Let's just stop the game and play something else. Not every game is always a winner, right?
Yeah. There was another thing too here. Hold on, let me just go to that page.
It's
It was
why are
here.
games important?
Yeah. It says board games are different from other forms of entertainment because they're about a lot more than just sitting and absorbing content. Instead, game gives players an active role in determining how the experience is going to play out. And I think this is like something that really stood out to me that I hadn't thought about is you are the one that is actually giving the direction of where the board game or sorry, where the play game goes, right? Like what direction you're
The
taking and
story, yeah,
yeah, the story.
narrative.
Um, so it is a lot more active. Whereas if we think about, I don't know, going to the movies, it's a great experience, especially if you go to the theaters, but you're just sitting there watching and receiving the information instead of leading it, right?
Yeah. I mean, even video games to a degree, I think a lot of it is just absorbing content. You do have the ability, obviously, to play and make some decisions in the game, but it's obviously a lot more scripted and structured than a board game where the narrative that you're creating, I think, is a little bit more involved even than a
Hmm.
video game. But yeah, I agree. That those two comments really hooked me immediately,
Hmm.
and to your point, I felt like this is something I actually want to read and learn
Yeah.
more about.
Yeah. And especially one of the things that I also really liked is that he calls out that you're a game designer, even if you're not published, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that like we have been thinking about designing a game for so long and we have been getting stuck. And he also mentions that. And so I think that as the ideas are now flowing, that we have been play testing two of those ideas, um, I think it's good to have this kind of information handy so that we can start, I guess, making progress that is more meaningful in a way that is more conscious and learning from the experience of someone else instead of us trying to figure it out for so many years.
Yeah. And I really liked how he was talking about taste, the taste and skill gap, right? That really made something click for me as well. Like just how he describes how everyone has good taste, right? You can look at something and say, that's good. That's a good game. That's a fun game. These mechanics work and they're fun. But you may not have the skill to build that,
Hmm.
which can be frustrating, right? You have the ability to see that something is good, but you can't build something that is good. And that can create that frustration of, oh, I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I can't get it. And then him just talking about how, you need that repetition to build those skills to be able to bring your taste and your vision to life.
Mhm.
It's not just a huge leap, right? You
Yeah.
can't. It's all those little steps that lead to that. And I think that I really like that. That resonated with me very, very deeply. So
Mhm. Yeah, I think, and our daughter also saw the book and she's like, "Ooh," because she's been helping with the other
yes, yeah,
game. Like we basically came up with it together, and she's been very involved. And now she's reading it. I can see her bookmark there.
yeah.
We're gonna have to add another bookmark for you. But yeah, so that's the exciting update on board game related
Yeah.
content today, which actually leads me to we were saying, right? Like, this is not a waste of time. Playing board games is great. But what do you think about board games for kids?
Yeah, so I think, and I know there's obviously an industry for this, but the more we've gotten more into this, into gaming with our kids and hobbying with our kids, I think personally I started to develop the opinion that child specific games tend to be a waste of time and money. And I know there's definitely a couple of board games that have come out with like my first um, X, like my first Y, like they're child versions of the whole board game. And there's obviously very child specific board games, like Candyland or I think Labyrinth. The board game has Labyrinth Junior. So there's a lot of those child focused games. And I mean, we have a few of those as well.
that
But over,
that was from before we had our budget.
yeah. But I think that's also before I formed this opinion too.
Hmm.
um, that the more we've delved into this, to me, they've become a waste of time and money because they're so narrow scope. They're so limited in strategy that as a child learns them, they very quickly outgrow it. And I mean, they kids are looking to have fun. Kids are looking to challenge and learn new things. Um, and I think you get a lot more value out of leveraging existing board games and just taking the initiative yourself on how to simplify that game, how to incorporate or change rules to for it to be playable with your kids, right?
I will disagree. So I agree with your opinion. I'm also of the same opinion. But if I think of Candyland, like our son still likes that one, right?
Yeah.
For it's not the game of that he will choose generally, but sometimes he's like, oh, let's play some Candyland. And I think that what makes it the more fun is for him to be picking at the cards and cheat. Um,
Yes.
and it's not such a bad game because it's like repetitive. If you're like tired and you just want to play something very light, it's not bad. The one that I got for our daughter, Race to the Treasure, I felt like that one was also really good. But to your point, right? Like if you want to get them one game, that's fine. But if you're trying to save money, then the investment is probably not going to be like the best option is probably not going to be in a junior type of board game and instead leveraging what you already have if you already have a collection and modifying it, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think Labyrinth was one of the main ones where I started to notice it, right? Because like there was obviously the general Labyrinth game, and we saw there was a Labyrinth Junior. So I had purchased Labyrinth Junior first to introduce it to our kids. Um, and they liked the theme, they liked the game. Um, but very quickly once they understood the concept of it, it was just too simple for them.
Mhm.
And we ended up getting the full Labyrinth game, right? And we could have easily just gotten the Labyrinth game and simplified it, and simplified some of the rules or made it easier for them, right? And had that same experience where when I asked them if they want to play Labyrinth, they don't want to play the junior version.
Mhm.
It's a smaller board, there's less movement, right? And they like the full version of the game. Um, and I agree, yeah. Like Candyland is an example of something that's very simple and easy to play with your kid. Um, I don't know specifically off the top of my head, but I'm certain that there must be a more complex game that is similar in terms of rolling dice and moving and drawing
Mhm.
cards that you could probably simplify to play very similarly to Candyland. It obviously wouldn't be the same theme, but
Mhm.
it would probably play very similar if you simplified it, right? Um, But to your point, I think it's just a matter of if you already have a board game collection and you have that desire to get your kids involved in the hobby, I think the first approach should be to look at what you have. What are your favorite games? How could you potentially simplify some of them versus looking to get a child-specific game?
Yeah, because the other thing is that you as a parent are gonna have to be involved in playing it, right?
Yeah.
And so it has to be something that you're gonna enjoy, not just for your sake, but also for the kid to perceive that you're having fun and for them to feel good about doing
Yeah.
that activity with you, right? They don't want to see you all disconnect and be like, oh, I have to get through this game,
Yeah.
right? And the easier way to say no to playing a game is just not to have it on your shelf,
Yeah.
not to have it as an option.
I'd say obviously it's not a hugely complex game, but like Snakes and Ladders to me is probably the more advanced version of Candyland.
Well, and I was just gonna mention that one because I was gonna say that's a classic, right? So
Yeah.
if anything, I will say, let's play this one. I used to play it when I was a
Yeah,
kid.
exactly. But yeah, sorry, I was cutting you off.
What do you think about the zombie kids game?
Yeah, so I think that brings us into a different type of game, right? Games that evolve and the rules change with like the game is built to do that.
Hmm.
So I do like Zombie Teens and Zombie Kids. They are the legacy type game where as you play, you're unlocking different things and introducing new rules slowly, which does make the game more complex, but at the same time, you don't have to use them. From its core rule set, it's very simple. It's very accessible to a child of a younger age. Um, and I think what lends itself really well when you're looking at taking more established board games and bringing them down in age range is removing that competitiveness, is trying to form it into a cooperative experience or a non-scoring experience. And I mean, Zombie Teens and Zombie Kids is already a cooperative game. You're all working together anyways. So I think that's why I do like that game a lot.
Hmm.
And I know we got our son into it very young. He was able to start playing it very young. It's easy enough. You're rolling a die and taking 2 actions.
Hmm.
You don't have to start with introducing, the special characters and their special abilities. It's just sort of, which character do you like, the way it looks,
Hmm.
and then roll the die and take your 2 actions. So it's very simple.
Yeah. So let's get into more specifics.
Sure. Yeah.
First game, Dixit.
I like Dixit as a game, but the whole rule set of it of being sort of interpretive, right? Like you're saying a word and then you have these very, um, I don't know what the word is. I'm drawing a blank, but pictures that don't directly relate to anything.
Abstract?
Abstract, yes. They have very abstract images. So although technically the rule set isn't that difficult, but trying to get trying to explain that to a kid
Hmm.
about abstract thoughts and ideas is
Hmm.
obviously not something they're going to be able to wrap their heads around. So for us, we changed the rules and changed the game essentially, right? So instead of it being a competitive game, we changed the game and played it with the deck of cards to sort of highlight what do we think the other person is playing in the middle, right? So
And it's still like using or leveraging the main aspect of the game, which is finding some sort of relationship between the different cards,
yeah,
right?
yeah. And just for your awareness, we plan to sort of record some videos of us playing this so you can see exactly how this functions, because I know it might be a little bit difficult to understand with just the word explanation. But as you were saying, like what we've done is we just take the deck of cards in the middle, deal everybody out 4 cards. We'll flip one from the deck, and that will be sort of the theme, we call it. That's the theme of this round, whatever's on the image. And we'll typically describe it just so everybody understands. We'll say these are the colors on the card. If there's a person, this is what they kind of look like, whether they're happy or evil or something like that, anything in the background. So we're just calling out what's on the card. And then from the deck, we'll also add 4 cards without looking at it.
Hmm.
And then everyone will put 1 card into the deck in terms of what they think from their hand could relate
Not
to this
into the
picture.
deck, but into like
So
the
into the
new
pile,
special
yeah.
guessing.
Yeah. So like with 4 players, there will be 8 cards. So we add an extra card from the deck for each player. So then we shuffle those up, put them up, face up, and then one by one, we sort of go around taking turns saying, I think, you on the table, I think you played this. And then if we guess it right, then we also ask that person, why did you pick that? Like, well, what is the relation that you found? And that usually causes a bit of laugh when somebody's
more than a bit.
Yeah. Our son will say, oh, I picked this because, he looks happy and I think that's a happy color or something like that, right?
It's very interesting to hear how everyone thinks in a different way and the relationships that maybe you wouldn't have picked on until someone else mentioned.
And I also find that, as we do it a couple of rounds, sometimes we get very good at spotting, like making that connection, like, oh, I think you like, this fits you. And I think you're picking this. And we sometimes get very good at identifying who's picking which card. But yeah, and again, it's not a competition. We're not counting any points or anything like that. And because we're going through like 8 cards every round, we just play through the deck. And it usually takes, I think, maybe 15 to 20 minutes or maybe half an hour at the most. And then, that's the end of the game.
And the funny thing is that those extra cards that you put in per player, there's a lot of times when we have had them being such a perfect card for the theme, and it turns out that no one picked it.
Yeah.
Or because we sometimes find relationships that are like barely there, and then the cards are like also not related, and so it makes it a little bit challenging to try to figure out who picked what. So yeah, that one is fun. That was fun to play.
What about Once Upon a Time?
Yes. So one of the things that is good about that game is that it prompts or it leverages your storytelling skills and develops them, right? With that one, you have to take some cards, you have them in your hand, and you have to start playing them. But what I have found, and not just with kids, but also with adults, is that you're trying to play them as fast as you can because that's the point of the game, to get rid of all of your cards. And so because your objective is to get rid of cards rather than build a story, then you try to go as fast as possible and pretty much mention every single word that you can in just one sentence. So this one day when I was playing with our son, I was like, you know what, we're going to do it differently. So we had all of the cards together in just the one pile in the center. And so I just flipped one card. That was my card. I was forced to play it, and I had to make a story based on that. And then he will play the next card. And even if they were not related whatsoever, he had to find a way to connect that story. So that was, to me, that was a better way for him to develop those skills, like the storytelling. And we ended up making longer stories and like with wild turns, because sometimes, like I said, right, like they were not related in any way, and we had to figure it out. So we will just play it for, say, 8 cards, depending on how you're feeling, how long it's taking. And then we will draw one of the ending cards. And so in that one, like while you're playing the real game, you have an opportunity to plan ahead of time and drive your story towards your ending.
Yeah.
But in this situation, you just get presented with a brand new ending that you have no idea if it's going to relate to the rest of your story. And so now you sometimes have to, make something completely wild to make sure the story goes in that direction. So that one was pretty fun. But then the last time that we tried it, he didn't like it. And I think that because he already got exposed to the other way of like just getting rid of the cards and getting kind of like winning the game, I think that he's kind of like looking to have that experience. But, it's a good alternative if your kids can't be holding that many cards, if they can't read on their own, because as they draw the card, you can help them figure out what it says. And, the only thing that is left for them is to make up the story.
Yeah. But the other day when we played it as a family, with those rules, I did enjoy it. To your point, like it forced us to a degree collaborate, right? Like we're telling a story together and sort of feeding off of each other and what the next card is. And sometimes, a couple of times, the cards actually fell perfectly into the story, right? And what should happen next. We're like, oh, okay, we can definitely add that to the story. So I did enjoy that aspect of it. And sort of that model of using that game in this way, um, as you said, it removed the competitiveness aspect
Hmm.
of it and really changed it into a storytelling game. Not that it isn't a storytelling game, but I think it really reinforced it more working through it in that model. Um, so I did like it, and I think, to be honest, I would probably prefer to play it that way again as a family, because not that the competitive aspect isn't enjoyable, but you just don't get as in depth of a story. Because
Hmm.
as you said, people are just trying to get rid of their cards, and often they're also limiting what they're saying because they don't want other people
Hmm.
to interrupt their story if they say certain words, right?
Yeah.
If they're too descriptive or things like that. So it definitely engages more of the table playing it that way.
And then it also, because you already have all of the cards in your hand, you're trying to already make up a story ahead of time. Like you're already thinking about it. Whereas the way that we did it, it was more improvisation.
Yeah,
But bringing it back to younger children, like again, you're removing the friction of maybe they don't know how to read yet.
yeah,
If you give them a hand of cards, and even if you help them read it, they're probably gonna forget
yeah.
about
They're
it.
not
They're
gonna
not gonna
remember
be
all
able
of
to
them. Yeah,
hold them. So I think that it removes those frictions for kids, and it just like they already make up stories all the
yeah,
time. So it just enables them to you just give them a little bit of direction and make them cooperate
and
with you
focus,
and
right?
improvise.
Yeah,
Yeah, and
focused.
focus.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because they're only one card. Like that's your card. Focus on this. How do you extend the story
Hmm.
around that card? So yeah, I think it works really well to to leverage that game, and you can expand it to a much younger age group.
Hmm.
Absolutely. What was one of the other games? Blockus, you said you played, right? So,
Yeah.
how did you do that one?
Okay. So blockers, it's a very simple game where you have different pieces and you're putting them all together. And there's only one rule, which is, well, actually two rules, right? One is where you start the game, which is there's like a marker. And then the other rule is that your pieces can only touch on the corners. Um, and that's not too difficult for a young kid to understand, but it depends on how young the kid is. Like our son at 6, he understood the rules. But when I used to play it, I can't remember if it was with him or with our daughter at a much younger age. So what I ended up doing was to have a challenge to mirror it. So I will place down one of the tiles and then they will have to find the tile that was the corresponding one and then just put it the opposite direction. And so we will try to make a shape. So you will have half of your board with one of the colors, the other half with the other colors, but exactly mirroring the other one.
Mm.
And so it's not so much about the game, but you're using the pieces, they're getting familiarized with those pieces. And because you're the one that is making that kind of like a pattern for them for the that they have to mirror, um, like they have to get that awareness of okay, this is the same shape and this is how you connect them to make them look opposite. Um, so I think that it's a good foundation. Just again, just playing around with the pieces, so that once you want to introduce them uh, to the actual rules later on, then you can do that.
Okay. And was it fun for you?
It was fun, yeah.
Yeah.
It was entertaining. I wouldn't say that it's that I would consider it part of my board game time. Like it just didn't feel like playing a board game. But I think that just repurposing a game that we already have. Um, and again, when the kids want to maybe play a board game and you're like, well, you can't play any of the ones that I have because of the pieces and whatnot. So it felt like it was a safe game to just bring out and have fun with.
A couple other ones, I guess maybe getting out of board game specific. One is Lorcana. So that's a deck, a card game. Um, Similar to Magic, like you're building your deck. It's a deck building game, or not deck building card game, but it's card management. So what I've done with Lorcana is like my our daughter's obviously able to read and she understands strategy, um, but to not make it too complex to start with, we focus primarily on the gaming aspect and not so much the deck building aspect of it, and trying to figure out like what cards are going to benefit what and how to trigger certain things and things like that. So removing that aspect of it allows her to focus on building strategy and understanding the game. Um, but not just playing with the same cards all the time. So what I've done is, we've stuck to the color. I can't remember what they're called. I think they're colors or themes, or something like that, that come in the starter decks. So I think one of the two colors are like ice and sapphire or something like that. Um, so we've kept those themes together, but with the cards that we bought, because we've got more than just the starter decks, we've had boosters and some additional starter decks. Um, I've just made sure to keep them all together. So all the sapphire and all the ice, I think it was, or something like that, are together. And what we'll do is we'll typically shovel them up, and then from that deck of, I think, like 80 or 90 cards, we will just randomly draw out the deck of 65. And then for the other player, whatever colors they choose, again, they have that larger stack, they'll shuffle and then just draw out 65. So the cards we're playing with are constantly changing. So we're exposing and having to learn how to use different cards, but we're not investing time into that full deck management and deck building, right? So it's more just on the actual game play itself. And again, not that that part isn't fun, but just removing that higher level, I do think it's a higher level of strategy, right? Because you need to understand how the game works before you can start looking at how cards can be leveraged to get better at the game itself. So just focusing on the game aspect of it. And I think it's worked really well, and we've had a lot of fun, and yeah, we've enjoyed Lorcana. So yeah.
The other card game that we have modified is The Mind.
Yeah.
I really like that game as a way for our younger son to start practicing the sequencing in numbers. But then he still doesn't have that
Judgment, maybe?
yeah, I guess judgment of, is it a low card? Should I go next? Which makes it actually really fun for the rest of us. One of the rules in that game is that you're not allowed to speak, right? Which I think as adults, when we play it, we still kind of like, give some hints here and there. But I think that with us, what we have been doing more is, are you sure that you don't have to go? Like, how high is your number? And even though like that's kind of like cheating, but it's building that judgment of what kind of card where does my card fall in the different thresholds? And as we keep practicing, I have noticed that he's getting better in identifying the numbers, identifying the sequence, but then also being able to identify, again, like, is it a kind of like a low card? Is it in the mediums? Is it in the highs?
Yeah.
I have noticed a lot more. And, like we're talking about a few weeks of playing, right?
Yeah. But like to your point, it's a simple change to the rules that makes it more accessible to the younger ages, right? Again, we're not calling out the numbers. We're just focusing on, we can talk, but we're saying certain things that still can be interpreted in different ways. So like you said, his judgment of what a low number is, it's often very different from what the rest of us think is a low number. So it still makes it challenging, but it's now more accessible to him, right? And I know we saw, or I showed you another game, I think it was called Ito, where it introduces like that theme to the scale. I don't know if you remember, where like you're using animals, like my number's higher is like an elephant size, and this is a mouse size. So it's not directly the same as the mind, but just looking at how you could use the cards in the mind to play along that same theme, right? But at the end of the day, I think what we've done with the mind is just introducing more of that that ability to talk versus just silence, which I think helps it make it more accessible to our kids. And then just leveraging that judgment still.
The other progression too was, like, when you start, with you have set number of life and the what is it, a throwing star? Yeah. And so we didn't start with those ones at the beginning. It was just about getting the sequence right.
Yeah.
Then he saw the cards, right? And he was like, what are those cards for?
Yeah.
And we were like, okay, well, there's life, and then there's this other throwing star that allows you to raise your hand and then discard your lowest card. So that one was too difficult to understand, I think, from the beginning. So we started introducing lives. Once he felt comfortable. I guess once he wanted the extra challenge of saying, okay, now I'm getting this. I want to see how far we can actually make it. And then you can start introducing the lives. And it might happen within, after a few plays, or it might just happen years later, right? It depends on where your child is at. And then more recently, we have been introducing the throwing stars, which we don't use as much as we should be doing. But like he knows that it's there. And I think that there are some times when he's just not in the mood to die and stop the game. And he wants to like keep challenging himself. So there has been times when we just don't play with it. Even if you lose the round, you still move on to the next level and keep making it more complex with more cards. Just like for the sake of seeing where it goes, right?
The other example I wanted to cover was Warcry. So it's a miniature tabletop game. And I think, like, if you look at kids, at least in my experience, kids love to build, right? You give them Lego, they love to play around with Lego, building blocks, wooden blocks, anything like that. They enjoy building, and then just sort of playing, enacting their own games with that. And to me, those tabletop miniature war games is just the adult version of that, right? We want to create these immersive experiences with buildings, trees, hills, and then have our armies and play in our what we built, right? So Warcry is a much smaller scale size, like it's a very small board, and I've bought in one of the starter sets, so I have the terrain that comes with it. We've painted it all up, and I keep it all in one box. So when my son wants to play, we take out the terrain pieces. He gets his army, but I play none of the rules, like absolutely none of the Warcry rules, right? It's just about essentially using it as Lego, as building blocks, right? We create the terrain. He's got his Warcry band, and I've got mine, and we'll play. We've got the little rulers that come with the set, and we just kind of make up when we use them. He'll say, "Oh, my guy can move 6 inches, and this turn he can actually move twice." And I'm gonna roll a 6. He can jump on top of this tree. So we're just making up rules as we play, but he loves it. Like it's an opportunity for him to experience that miniature tabletop wargaming side of things without the rule sets. It's just exposure to it, and he loves doing that. And I know I finally got around to opening up one of my Kickstarters the other day and just having everybody building terrain, and then they spent like half an hour just playing with those blocks. They were having so much fun there. And then he asked if he could build a city the next day. So we took out the same things and the buildings, and then he started playing with them. Just there's no reason why he can't use those same things the same way he uses his toys, right? It's a little more realistic, if nothing else, right? You have more detail on them than you would in a Lego building. So he can, I think, envision the reality of the things he's playing with a little bit more. So yeah, it's a fun way to just get them exposed to miniature tabletop games without any rule sets whatsoever, and we can still have fun.
And using what you already have.
Yeah. And he always wins at the end of the day.
Of course.
Yeah.
Other games have we modified? So there are some games, and we touched on those at the beginning. But there are games that we were talking about how they have different difficulty levels and they keep getting harder, which could be a great way to introduce your kids. One of the ones that I like is The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Yeah.
I like that it already comes with the instructions of how to modify it. I also like not having the instructions so that you can come up and get creative and come up with a way to do it and make it work for you. But in this particular case, the way that they thought about it, and because what is the age on that one? Do you remember?
I think it was 6.
Okay, yeah. So they thought it out, right? Like, how do we make this accessible for kids, but it's also for older ages?
Yeah.
I feel like maybe that's not what I thought about, but it worked out that way.
Yes, yeah. I think that is the intention, because I'm pretty sure there's rules in there that For younger kids, they just use fewer dice, where it's simpler for them. Obviously, it's going to make it easier for them to dump their items on other people, but that's the point, right? So that they're not getting crushed by all other players that may have a better understanding and able to roll and interpret their dice faster.
Yeah. And so for context, you have a number of items. You have 2 different dice. One is going to tell you how many of those items are you going to pass to someone else and what particular kind of item. And then the other one tells you the direction, right? Or is it one of them the item and the other one the direction and number?
Yeah, I think there's 3 dice. You're right.
Oh, 3
yeah,
dice. 3 dice?
Yeah, I think one is the number, one is the item, and one is the direction. You're right. Whereas the simpler rules gets rid of the numbers, right? It's just you're rolling the item and the direction, or you can even remove the direction and just roll the item. And the kid can decide how many he wants to. He could get rid of all of them to one specific player, but it allows them to move
just as fast as everyone else.
Everyone else, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, because that's one of the other things is that there's some games that both of our kids can play, but that our daughter is gonna be much faster, right? And so you can see the disadvantage for the younger one, which is not very fun. But so if you have something that is allowing you to increase the pace, right? The pace, so that you're in line with everyone else, and that makes it fun for everyone.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, there's obviously not a lot of games that do that, but I think it is good to find games that have that accessibility, as you said, right? That you can alter the games already there. Again, not that you can't do it yourself. It's just it does make it a little bit easier when the game itself has already thought about that in advance. Another example is No Thank You Evil. So like it's a board game-ish RPG, where in the game it comes with 3 different player sheets, right, based off of your age. If you're sort of on the younger scale, they have a simplified player sheet that's very tailored to sort of limited areas that you really need to interact with. Whereas once you get to the older age, they introduce a little bit more like a little additional fields, additional cards. So it makes it a little bit more complex. It's not going to overall change how you play the game, but it is like you've got more to track and more ways that you can engage with the game versus the younger kid. But it allows you to have that all in the same game. So your older player can have a more complex sheet and your younger player can have a simplified sheet and still play together. So I like that aspect of the No Thank You Evil game.
And then we mentioned, of course, the Zombicide Kids and Zombicide Teens. And then the other one was the Animal Upon Animal, which is also a younger age. I can't remember what the age is, but it feels a lot like Meeple Circus.
Yeah, it does, definitely. I think like it comes with a die, right? And I think that's the simplest way that you can just simplify it. Rather than rolling the die, you just pick any piece and put it on the tower. And obviously doing the die for the older players makes it more challenging, especially when you have to like use your bad hand or have the other player choose the piece for you, and they're going to pick the hardest piece. So it makes it harder for you to play, but it is a very simple game. And I think just the concept of, taking a piece and stacking it is simple enough for a younger kid to learn. But the difficulty in the shapes is what can still make it challenging for an adult, and not being able to place it properly. So yeah, I think it's a good game. It's still fun, even for an adult. And it spans those age ranges.
Yeah. So those ones will be kind of like, if you're still thinking about investing, think about those board games that can kind of like grow with you and give you a little bit more of a lifetime versus the ones that you will play for maybe 1 year and then they outgrow it, or maybe even after a few sessions, right? The other one, actually, now that you were saying about the RPG, is the one that we just played recently, the Goblin Quest.
Goblin Quest.
Is that supposed to be for kids? Or?
I don't think so. I can't remember. I don't know if it had an age range. But
I mean, we're talking about killing, right? So it depends on how you feel about it with your kids.
Yeah, and I mean, I guess it's up to you how graphic you make it. But you don't necessarily have to make it because I mean, even though the goblins were dying, we were making it very comical, right?
Hmm.
It's more of almost like a cartoon, right? Something silly is happening and they're failing at doing the simplest tasks. um, but yeah, I think it's a very simple rule set. You're rolling one die, you're taking turns, sort of almost like a board game, right? Each one takes a turn. Obviously, you can do it in any order, but everyone takes their turn and they kind of decide what they want to do and they just roll for success or failure, right?
Yeah.
Um,
What I really like is that, again, we're just focusing on the storytelling. Um, and so you have multiple goblins, right? Because you know that they're going to die
yeah.
fast, but you have multiple ones. Unlike when we have played, say, Dungeons and Dragons, where you have your one character that you stick with for the whole session. In this one, you go through, what was it, like 5 or 6 different
Yeah.
goblins? Not all of them, depending on how fast they're dying. But I think that it gives you the ability of changing your persona as soon as you get through another one. Having all of them, the rules being the same, unlike, a more customized character where you might have to roll a very specific die for one thing. Um, so everyone is rolling the exact same thing. Everyone knows that you can re-roll one time if you chop off the ear of
Yeah.
one of them. And so I think that it just makes it very easy and you just don't pay attention to the rules anymore. It's just so easy to pick it up that you're just going for the story. And again, it's so silly
Yeah.
that it makes it great for the kids.
Yeah. Yeah, they definitely enjoyed it.
And the
Uh,
creating them too. That was fun.
yeah, the ability to create them is, yeah, it's very, everything's just packaged so simply in that game. And, the whole rule that, oh, goblins frown upon multi-syllable names, right? So
Yeah.
even simplifying the name picking, they should be one-syllable names, so quick and easy. And the idea that you have this heirloom object, but it doesn't actually do anything, so you don't have to worry about magic spells or anything like
Hmm.
that, right? So yeah, it's fun. It's fun, and I really enjoyed it.
Hmm.
I'm glad you all enjoyed it too.
Yeah, that's definitely compared to other RPGs that we have played or RPG like, that's probably the one that I'm having more fun with.
Yeah.
Because everything is just again making it silly and you're not trying not to die. Like it's actually fun if you
Yeah.
die. One of the things is when I was looking at the age that
Ah, yes, yeah.
right, the age on the board games, there was not a lot of like very clear cut information of how the games are classified depending on the age. One of the things that I found mentioned is that if it's not a toy, then you kind of like have to figure it out as a designer or as a publisher, figure out based on your testing and your persona maybe or who your audience is, your target, whatever, and you pick that age range. But once they fall into the category of toy, then you have to do a lot of testing, right? And choking hazards and all of that. Um, so the age itself, it might not necessarily be representative of the age that your kid has to be able to play it. You might just need more supervision, or you have to assess whether your kid is ready for it or not, because everyone is developing at a different rate.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't think that I necessarily pay attention too much to the age unless it's a strategy game. Because then at that point, if it's a strategy and if it's like a 14 plus, then definitely we can't do anything to make it work for my son. Um,
Yeah, and I think the other thing to keep in mind is it's not always about like how complex the rules are or how much they have to read. It's also often an aspect of attention span, right?
mhm.
Um, a younger kid isn't likely to want to play an hour-long worker placement game, which we tried to do the
Yeah, we
other day. Yeah.
tried. I
Um,
mean, I can't even do that
yeah.
either.
There's just it's for reference to that time to fun ratio just isn't there for a 4 or 5 year old, 6 year old, right?
Hmm.
Um, so I think that's just another thing to keep in mind in terms of like the age ranges. Um, Even though the rules may not be complex, if that game is heavily strategized or strategy and takes a long period of time to actually play the game, then it's probably going to be difficult to play that game with set rules. If you want to play it, you're definitely going to have to look at how you can adapt the rules, make it faster.
I mean, even then, some of them might not be completely adaptable,
Yeah, they
right?
may not be. Absolutely.
Especially the strategy ones, because that one, I feel like there was so much thought going into it that you can't probably just, cut some rules here and there. I think that it will probably create imbalances. I mean, who knows? Maybe that will be fun.
But yeah, I do stick to my initial comment at the beginning of today's episode is I do think that child's like very child specific games like My First Stone Age and My First X, Y, and Z. I think King Domino even has their own My First. I
Scythe,
don't think
Scythe is that
they're
a game?
yeah, that's one of the ones we have, My Little Scythe. um, I don't think they're worth it at the end of the day. I think you can get that same experience through the adult versions of those games and just adapting it yourself. Um, and there's no need to invest in those types of games to introduce board games to your kids.
hmm It might be a good option for, let's say, a teacher in their classroom if they're not going to be involved and they need the kids to figure it out themselves and play amongst themselves. Maybe, but
Maybe.
maybe. But yeah, I don't like. I wonder, like, if they made it, then was there a market, or maybe they didn't research?
Well, I think that's the thought, right? Like I think typically as a parent, I want to share board games with my kids. I'm gonna look for something that's gonna be easier for them to absorb and be able to play. And the simple approach is, oh, this is tailored for kids. I'm gonna buy that. But I think now that I've gone through that, my opinion is it's not needed.
hmm
That you're better off looking at what games you yourself can simplify, take out the competitiveness of it, streamline the rule set, improve that time to fun ratio. And then as the kids learn and enjoy it more, you can just play the regular game. You no longer have to adapt it, right? I think you get a lot more value out of that than trying to look for those child specific games.
hmm And again, making it for fun for you as well.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Well,
All right.
okay, so that's our opinion. Let us
Yeah.
know what you think, and if you have modified any other games, or if you have a childhood for games that adapt to growing kids and get more challenging over time. Let us know in the comments.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.